Well, it's a very good morning from him, and it's a very good morning from me. Welcome, everybody, to my mortgage live stream. Let's go online, live on air, shall we? So here we are. This is Monday, our normal slot, sort of 20 minutes or so of mortgage updates for you, because that's what we like to do. Because loads of people study with us, our boot camp's really popular, and lots of people keep up to date, etc. And this is your way of getting up to date CPD and all the new things that are happening in the mortgage sector from me and my opinion on things as well, because I've been around for a while and I ain't got no axe to grind. I don't affiliate to anybody particular. I'm completely independent, so I can sort of say what I feel and what my thoughts are. But also I want to make sure that you get the right information to help you become a really, really, really good mortgage and financial advisor. So a couple of topics today for you. Hope you're all right. Hope you enjoyed the weekend. The weather was a bit better, wasn't it, this weekend? We had a good weekend, actually. And all is good here in June in the UK. So a couple of topics for you. I want to talk about Boris from last week. No politics, don't go there. No point doing that, as there lots of people do that anyway. Twitter's full of it, isn't it? So I want to talk about Boris's housing pledges. And then I want to pick up on the married couples allowance, one of our updates that we're doing for the new tax year, which we're doing this week and next week, and we're updating all our materials. So I thought I'd just share with you one of the latest updates, just because I can, and it might help you to do your job. So without any further ado, let's get on to Boris, our lovable Prime Minister. Love him or hate him, don't really care about that. But he did do something last week that caused a bit of a stir in the mortgage press, and that was his housing pledges. And if you've been around a few years, you hear these things all the time, because a lot of people have contacted me and said, "Look, Paul, what's happening? Is it changing everything?" And I said, "Well, no, it's not. It's never going to come to fruition. These things never do." So look at it with a pinch of salt. Now, I want to really share with you what he said, why he said it, and what he really should be doing with the housing market, because it's really important to do that. So let's talk about his housing pledges. Now, put into context, first of all, he had a no confidence vote, which is basically his own team telling him they don't like him anymore. But they did like him, and that was fine. But quite a few people said they didn't. So he's feeling a bit damaged at the moment. He's quite an extrovert, remember, Boris. So he's feeling quite damaged. So he decided to go off and do a speech on housing. Now, why did he choose housing? Well, because housing is a great vote winner, particularly amongst his own MPs, Tory party membership. They love housing, because Maggie Thatcher did this, of course, back in 1980s. 1980 Housing Act was introduced, which gave the right to buy, and millions of people bought council houses, and it kept loads and loads of voters pumping for Maggie and the Conservatives for years. So Boris did the same. But what he's done is he's done two things. The first thing is he talked about allowing housing benefits to be used as part of a mortgage application. So somebody's on housing benefits, and I did some research, and there's about 4.5 million people on housing benefit, one extreme or another. And they can use that money as part of their mortgage application, which sounds great. The second one was to give tenants of housing associations the right to buy their house. Not councils, they've had that for years, but the housing associations, they call it a right to acquire. And that's what he did, and good for him too. He got some good press publicity. But if you examine it closely, it's all wrong, really, because the housing benefit issue, by allowing housing benefit to be used as part of a mortgage application, it's not down to Boris to say that. The FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, with MCOBs and lenders, they're the ones that decide what income they can use to support a mortgage application, not Boris. And if they want to use housing benefits, it's up to them. I don't think they will want to do that. The FCA, of course, have strict rules on affordability assessments for mortgages, and rightly so, and lenders decide themselves. Besides, you have to do an awful lot of lobbying with the FCA, who are quite busy at the moment with industrial action. You have an awful lot of lobbying to change that. So you can put that one aside. That's not going to happen, is it? The second one, though, was an interesting one. That was to give the right for people who live in housing association properties, the right to buy their property. Now, if you dig deeper on this one, that's been around for a while. There was a Housing Act of 1996, which wasn't being clever, by the way, I'm just reading it from my notes. The Housing Act of 1996 was introduced, which gave the right to acquire. So it gave housing association tenants the right to buy their property, because it just did. Did it go down well? Not really. Did many people do it? No, it's not really worked at all. So the law's already there for that. Whether they're going to tweak it or make it easier is up to them. But that's not the problem, though. The bigger challenge with UK housing is bigger than that, in my opinion. So what I wanted to do is share with you some numbers and stats and that kind of stuff to share with you where the bigger problem lies. And you'll see it visually, which is really quite interesting. First of all, let me share with you the housing stock situation in this country for last year. So I'm going to go to some slides now because I want you to see these visually, if you like. So the first point to make is that in 2021, the housing stock was just under 25 million homes. So in other words, that's the amount of properties we have in the country, which is pretty good, really. There's a lot of houses. And that's from the Office of National Statistics source. So this is pucker information. Now, if you broke that down into, it's split, as I call it here, it's split in a number of ways. I've got a graph here to show you. I've got 4 categories of the housing stock currently that we have. So let me just highlight this with a little dot there. So the first category is what we call owner occupied. That's in dark blue. Then we've got private rented. That's renting privately from private landlords. Then we've got rented from housing associations. That's the one where the law came in or will come in. And then we've got rented from local authorities. Now, if you look at the numbers, we've got 64% owner occupation at the moment. Now, 64% of the housing stock is owner occupied. With or without a mortgage, doesn't really make a lot of difference. Then we've got 20% rented privately. Now, I've rounded the figures up to make them look better, but the fact is there's 20% of properties in this country are privately rented. And we know that because it's a big mortgage market, isn't it? Buy-to-let mortgages. But then you've got the housing association rentals at 10% and the local authority rentals at 6%. Now, that's the current situation. Now, my thoughts are that the housing association, okay, you've got quite a lot of percentage there of people renting from housing associations, but I think they do a really good job. I know a lot of people that work in housing associations. They do a fantastic job. They have really good housing. It's warm, comfortable, damp proof, draft free. They've got central heating, all sorts of economy issues as well. They're great houses. They create really nice properties, and people who rent them have to go on a list to get in, and they're usually young families and people who deserve them. They don't pay a lot of rent. It's subsidized rent. Housing associations are charities, you see. They're subsidized and run by the government. So I don't really think these people really want to buy their house. I'm not judging whether they do or not, but the fact is they are renting at a very low rent compared to private landlords, and they have good landlords who look after the properties. And there's still 6% or so of the rented from local authorities. So that's come down dramatically, isn't it? Now, I want to share with you now the numbers for 20 years ago. And that's the key thing here that I want to share with you. So let me show you the numbers from 2000, so 22 years ago, in fact. Same graph to give you the illustration. Now, we had 70% owner occupation then. It's quite surprising, actually, how much that's gone down in the last 21 years. We had 10% private renting, so you can see where one's transferred to the other. We had 6% housing associations, and we had 14% rented from local authorities. So the numbers have changed dramatically. Now, in my opinion, the problem is here. You've got 10% private rental back in 2000, 70% owner occupation. Now, that's changed dramatically to that. You can see it clearly, can't you? 2021, 20% private rental. I'll just go back a bit for you. 10% in 2000. And to the detriment of that, of course, is local authority buy-to-let, local authority rentals. There you can see 14% has come down as well because more people have bought their right to buy properties over the last few years. And what we now see are these figures. So the problem, therefore, is private rental. Now, it's a good thing. It keeps the mortgage market very busy with buy-to-let mortgages and things like that. But I think we could certainly be looking at options such as the right to buy, maybe giving tenants the right to buy from their private landlords. Whether you get that through or not is another issue. I think the Labour Party tried to do that. Or maybe give them an easier way of moving from private renting to owner occupation, because a lot of private renters, private tenants want to buy their properties or want to buy a similar property. They just can't afford it because of affordability rules, but also it's the deposit. So there might be a way of the government helping these people to go from private renting to owner occupation. even if they've some sort of subsidy, some sort of government loan system, or whatever it is to provide a deposit, to increase back the rates of owner occupation, which I think need to be put back to where they were. You just have to take a look at the numbers and what they create. I don't want to go too much on the politics side of this thing, but it's quite illustrative, isn't it? Where you see 2021 and you see 2000. All you need to do is increase the number of people who own or occupy from 64%, which it is now, back up to 70%, to the detriment of private rented. You don't need to tinker with local authority renting or housing association renting, because there's always a place for that. There's 2.5 million people rent from housing associations, and I think there should be many, many more opportunities for people like that to do that. Now, I want to leave you with the final sort of statistic, which is quite the alarming one. This one here, I don't know if you read this article back from 2016, but apparently 40% of ex-council homes are now in private rental. Now, that's just scary, isn't it? In other words, we gave people the right to buy their council homes in the 80s and 90s. We've seen numbers for it. But 40% are now homes in private rental. And what that means, of course, is you've got a private landlord who owns that property, who rents it on the private marketplace. And then therefore they become the landlord. And I don't know how you look at it, but that's just wrong on all levels, isn't it? I think there should be an element of local authority renting, because they do look after things. But that's what Boris should do. So Boris, there's the idea for you. We'll leave that one, shall we, as it is. All right, we're going to be careful when you get into a bit of politics, really, aren't you? I'm not going to go there with that, because there's no real value in that at all, is there? Okay, let's go on to my last topic, and that's an update for you on your CMAP, or if you're in your equity release world, you really do need to know about this topic. And I'm going to head over to the whiteboard for this one, because I can. So welcome to the whiteboard. Now I want to talk to you about the married couples allowance. Let's put the title up there for you. The married couples allowance. There we go. The MCA, as it's known. Now, the married couples allowance, even my old man doesn't get this. My dad lives in France. How old is my dad now? 84, 5, 86 or something. But he doesn't even qualify for this. This is for people who were born, married couples, that is, or civil partners, hence married couples or civil partnerships, who were born before 1935. So, and it's never changed. It's always been that year. So, as years go by, fewer and fewer people get this allowance. And you might think, well, I don't have many mortgage clients in that age bracket. You probably don't. But if you're in the equity release world, you will do. You'll get people in that age bracket, and that's where the problem occurs. Now, in a nutshell, what happens here is that these people get an extra allowance off of their income tax bill. That's all it is. And the current figures, because this is the only figure that's changed for this tax year of 22-23, which is what obviously the tax year we're working on. Tax year 22-23 is the only figure that's changed. Everything else has stayed the same, because they're doing what they call fiscal drag, which drags more and more people into high rate tax. But that's because that's what they need to do. So currently the figures are, they get £9,415. Let's put that over here for you. £9,415 is the extra allowance they effectively get. But it's not like a personal allowance, because they only get 10% tax saving. So the maximum that they could receive, because you don't need a calculator for that, is £941.50, because they round it out nicely. So that's the reduction, if you like, on their income tax bill, which is a really good thing, because that's just under £100 a month, isn't it? That's going to help enormously towards the gas bills, etc. And these people are entitled to that, which is great. Now, the problem is that there is an income limit for this, which you'll see in the tax sheets. All these numbers are in there. And the income limit causes problems, because the more they earn, these people, the less of this extra allowance do they get. Arguably, you could say that's quite sensible, really, isn't it? Because if you've got a really rich married couple who are loaded, loads of pension money, they shouldn't be getting government money as well, should they? They don't need it. So there is an income limit. And you have to have a look at that limit. It's in the tax sheet. It happens to be, let's put the figure up there for you, £31,000, here we go, £400. Excuse me, is the income limit. I'll put that in there in brackets for you, income limit. There you go. So we know what that is. And what happens here is if somebody's income is more than that from all sources, then they lose this allowance. Now it reduces by £1, so the allowance reduces by £1 for every £2. Let's put the figure on it, of income over. There you go. Over the limit. So it gradually erodes away. That's what I was saying to you, really. And that's it. There is a minimum. There is a minimum of £364. Even if you're earning hundreds of thousands of pounds, you'll still get 364 quid off your tax bill. So that's nice as well, isn't it? And that's how it works. Now, by the way, don't get confused with the marriage allowance. For those of you who are doing your CMAT 1, you've probably heard of this thing called the marriage allowance. And that's available to all couples or civil partnerships. And what it does, it allows people to transfer a little bit of their personal allowance to the other partner if they're not using it by earning money. That's a very different allowance, that one. This is the married couples allowance, similarly named, I know, to cause extra confusion. But what I want to do now is just share with you a quick calculation to show how this can be problematic for equity release clients. Now, for mortgage customers, you won't get people this age buying mortgages, but for equity release, you will do. So I've got a little case study for you. So let's just put this in a little space here so you can see this looking quite nicely over here in our little corner. Now, I've got a little case study by the name of Ethel. I just went for Ethel. I thought it was quite a nice name. Now, Ethel is age 90. So she and her husband, they can apply for a married couples allowance. They will get it. Now, Ethel's current income, there you go, from all sources, and this is pensions and everything that Ethel earns, is a good old £29,000. Here, put on 29 grand, shall we? Now, because she's on £29,000, she's below this limit, as you can see quite clearly. Therefore, she's entitled to the entire married couples allowance. So she'll get £941 off her tax bill each year. So good for her. However, you've come along, and you've done an equity release for Ethel from their property, the couple, and you've given her a load of money, and she spent a bit of it, but she's put some away in savings because she wants to protect herself. That's what she says, which is not good advice on your part, but she's done that. And she's earning money from the savings. She's earning an income, be it dividends or interest, or it makes no difference. But you've given her an extra income, or there you go, an extra income of £10,000 through your equity release antics, which, as you can appreciate, brings her new income to £39,000. Now, the problem here is that's exceeding now the income limit. Let's get a different pair. That's exceeding the income limit, as you can see quite clearly. 39,000 is more than 31,000 by, I've just worked out the numbers, 7,600. So the excess is 7,000. There we are. £600. And remember the rule: for every pound, it reduces by £1 for every £2 of extra income. So I'd effectively just divide that by 2. That's what I would do there. So that gives me, she's going to lose £3,800 from the married couples allowance. So she's going to lose that. So the married couples allowance now is 9,415 less 3,800. She's now got a married couples allowance of 5,615. Yeah. £5,615 is her new married couples allowance, and she's now entitled, of course, to 10% of that, and that gives her entitlement, brings it down now to 500. Lots of figures here, isn't it? £561 and 50p again. So she's lost 380 quid. So she would have got £941. She now gets £561. So she's lost £380. So poor old Ethel is way upset about that, because that's £40 a month. For somebody like this is a lot of money. And she didn't have to lose it. That's the whole point, because she had income. You gave her income. Now, for equity release, it's very dangerous to give people income. Give them capital, yeah, and they go and spend it, or do something on the house, or give it to their children, or as a pet or something, or spend it on a cruise or whatever. If they spend it, like Brewster's Millions, it's great. But if they hoard it away and it produces income, interest, or dividends, it increases salaries, and this affects married couples' allowance. It might also affect things like pensions credit if they're entitled to getting that. It might affect some of the other welfare benefits that they're entitled to as well. So you can be very careful when you do this. When you give advice on equity release, make sure you get some software which tells you how much of all this stuff you're gonna lose the client if they end up with bigger income. You can get software that does all the welfare benefits and this stuff at the touch of a button. I mean, I worked out these numbers using the government's website. It's all done by electronics nowadays, isn't it? Don't need a calculator anymore. But that's married couples allowance. Poor old Ethel, she's 400 quid poorer, and all because of what you've done. There you go. Enough of that. I hope that's been useful. Bye. Alrighty, okay. Let's just wrap up, shall we? Because we've done our married couples allowance. Yeah, it's frightening. My dad doesn't get access to that because he's going for a French civil partnership this year. What do they call it? A PAC, I think, a PAC or something. So it's similar, whether he'd apply for that one, because he still gets state pension and everything, gets all his allowances, which he's entitled to. But another day to talk about that. So that's all wrapped up. What's going on this week as far as we're concerned? We're updating all our materials. We're still doing our CMAP 3 audio on Saturday morning. We've got a couple more to do on Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock. We're doing it for free. Just come onto our database. We'll get you on that. And we're going to package that up and put that out as a product for about £25–30, which is good value. It really is, actually. And we're quite keen to keep our prices good value because we can, because our costs are low. And we can produce PDFs and MP3s and videos very quickly and easy. There's no great cost. So we keep the costs down, because that's what happens, of course, when there's high inflation and recession. Companies will sneak their prices up, which is not fair, really. So I think that's going to be available to you in the early summer. Or are we summer now, aren't we? So lots going on, really. Lots happening. Anyway, I'm going to leave you be. Have a nice rest of the week. Enjoy the sunshine if you get the chance. Enjoy the cricket if you're into cricket. Enjoy the rugby final on Saturday as well. The rugby premiership final, the rugby union, that is, not rugby league. That's at Twickenham between Sarries and Leicester Tigers, which would be a great match. Might get to watch that one. And that's what's coming up. But there's more important things probably you're doing in your life. Anyway, enjoy yourself. Have fun. Oh, we'll leave you with one last quote. Saw this quote. Show you this on slide for you. It seems to me to be the season for annual dues and awards dinners. Have you noticed on LinkedIn? So I saw this one. It was really good. Eugene Robert Houdin. I don't know who this person is, but I found this one. He's an economist, actually. Better a man honour his profession than be honoured by it. I like that, don't you? That's a bit contentious, but I think that's quite true, really. There's far too many of these awards dinners, and everybody's patting their own backs and slapping their thighs and all sorts of things. Of course, it's all sponsored by the lenders and people who actually end up winning the things anyway. It's like the Eurovision Song Contest, isn't it? And you see these pictures on LinkedIn of all these people in their dicky bow ties, on a free bar and everything. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, enough of that. Enjoy your week. I'll see you next week. Bye for now. There you go.